and if other people want to join, they can as we get going. First of all, I'd like to say a very good evening to everybody and welcome, especially to all of our tenants and also to residents on the Bullsride estate. It's a really very important evening tonight, and it's really the sort of a very big starting point in a tremendous project. I'll start off with the formalities of the meeting, which are to take apologies.
Chairman, I've had an apology from Councillor Keith Baker.
Thank you very much indeed. Next item is the declarations of interest. No, thank you very much indeed. And then we've got public question time. And I'd like to thank everybody who has submitted their questions and invite the first person to come up and put their question to the executive. The camera, just to let you know, is facing at us, so you'll be recorded, but you will not have your face on the camera. The first question tonight is from Michael Jones.
On several previous occasions over the last 3 years, both council employees and councillors have publicly stated that all existing homeowners on the estate will be offered a like-for-like swap of their home. Currently, council employees will not confirm such. Is this not still the case?
Thank you, Michael. I've been tasked to answer the questions tonight, so it's good to see you again. Okay, the council can confirm that existing homeowners currently living on the estate will be offered and have priority for a newly built home that has the equivalent number of bedrooms as their existing property. However, as set out in the report, brand new homes are likely to be worth significantly more than the existing homes, and therefore the council is not proposing a straight swap. The council recognises that the full market value for existing homes may not be enough to enable homeowners to purchase outright a similar home on the rebuilt estate or elsewhere locally. Therefore, the council is offering resident homeowners the option of purchasing a new home with the same number of bedrooms on the rebuilt estate or off-site through a shared equity scheme. Through this scheme, you can invest the proceeds of your current home into a new one, with the council retaining a percentage share. You will not be expected to pay any rent or interest on part you do not own, and will only need to repay the council share when or if you sell the home in the future. On a scheme of this size, it will not be possible to exactly replicate your existing home. Some features of your new home will be the same and some features will be different. You will, however, benefit from a brand new, thermally efficient home, which is, in most cases will be built to a higher space standard.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes. On the extra payment front, this was it's only come out recently. It was not mentioned previously in any discussions. I find that a trifle problematic to accept.
What extra payment?
The shared ownership option.
No, that has been actually brought up in steering group meetings. It's not something that's not been made public already.
That's true, but the initial, that's only come out in the last year and 2 years previously. That hasn't been mentioned at all.
Okay. Would it be helpful if, I think we've probably got some minutes of meetings and some...
Yeah. It'd be good to have that offline as well, and let's have a look through those minutes, because obviously I wasn't there 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But let's examine that. Okay. Let's keep it really transparent and let's find out what was said.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much indeed for your question, and we'll get back to you offline about that. The next question tonight is from Carol Bates. Carol here? No, she's not here. Okay, we'll give Carol a written answer. Okay. The next question is from Christine. Phyllis, would you like to come up? Thank you.
Hello, I'll let my questions home.
Thank you very much.
Everything else.
Thank you very much. Richard's going
Hi Christine, it's always
Hiya.
good to see you and enjoy our next cup of tea together. Okay, over the last year the council has been actively involving and engaging tenants, homeowners and other interested parties on the Gorsride estate in the development of our proposals. This has been done through informal arrangements such as fortnightly regeneration surgeries and regular steering group meetings, which I know you've been an active member and a welcome active member at that, as well as a formal consultation survey sent out to all affected residents in February of 2018. And I know you were very active in engaging residents to get those surveys returned to us, so thank you for doing that as well. The tenant consultation document contains significant detail around the project history, including the funding issues faced by the council since 2015. The document set out the advantages and disadvantages for tenants of different landlord options, including security of tenure, rent levels, right to buy and succession rights. It also clearly laid out the home loss and disturbance payments that tenants would be entitled to. And again, I know you led on some of those really key questions around those areas. We have listened to and responded to the views of tenants, for example, by introducing more bungalows into the addictive master plan and by adding in some flexibility where tenants are expected to downsize. I'm satisfied with the proposals in the report. I'm satisfied that the proposals in the report have been informed by appropriate consultation and engagement with affected residents in line with Section 105 of the Housing Act of 1985 and the regulator's tenant involvement and empowerment standard.
Thank you, Richard. That answers part of it, but the bit that is missing is the tenants have no concept of what rents they're likely to pay. There was a meeting on the 5th of February with yourself and others, and it was suggested that indicative rents were put in because people had no concept of what social rent is or affordable rent. One of the officers present said, no, we can't do that because it would terrify the less able on the estate. The actual response received that was positive was 17.5%, not the half that's being put in the report that were positive. There was a large group of 30% who were unsure because they didn't have all the details. Now, if those people knew how much the rents could potentially go up, which is between 50% for social and 100% for affordable, what would their choice have been? So the report is unclear and misrepresenting the case to the rest of the executive.
As always, your observations are really helpful, Christine. I believe that the rents that tenants will be paying will be in line with what they're actually paying now. Obviously, there will be some differences in terms of people who are actually downsizing, or there may be even people that may decide that they want to move from that estate and move elsewhere. I think it's going to have to be done by individual tenant.
I'm sorry, Richard, I have to disagree with you there. There are some people it won't affect very much at all. They will be at the lower end. But there are people where you've got working members of the family, 2 or 3, and they will then be classified as affordable. So it will be a substantial increase.
Sorry, just one supplementary, but can I ask that, again, you've raised some really interesting points, and there will be different circumstances for different families wanting to potentially move into different types of properties. So may I ask again, this is just a starting point, and that again these conversations continue, and they will continue for a long time. And may I ask that you work very closely with Richard after this meeting. So thank you very much indeed for your very good question. Thank you. The next question tonight is from Matt Sales. Thank you very much, Matt.
We own one of the brick built houses in Whittleford, and a few years ago we took with the local residents of area and with our councillor to lobby to exclude them from the scheme because they're of good standard, different character to the rest of the estate. So at the time, but there were no other plans of what the estate might look like. And from the indicative plans we're currently looking at, it looks like we'll have houses close to our property, or our road might no longer be a cul-de-sac. But so can I ask that our views are taken into consideration, and further this, maybe a special meeting be arranged for us to talk with relevant parties, because we're not in the scheme, but we are in the scheme.
Okay, again, thank you for your really helpful question, because again that adds to the engagement that we want with the whole of the community, not just the community that actually lives on the Gorse Road, but the wider community. So firstly, I'd like to start by again thanking you for your continued support for the regeneration proposals, and to extend this gratitude to all residents who give up their valuable time to input into the steering group. You guys play a key role in shaping the future of your estate and the community, and the council really does appreciate this. As you aware, the council's project team have been gathering views on various different design options that has culminated in the indicative master plan. We know that this isn't finished, so that this isn't a finished product, and that there is further discussion to be had at the end of the design. Subject to tonight's decision, a fresh tender process will need to be undertaken to appoint architects to develop the final plans ahead of a planning application. We will expect the successful company to continue to engage with the residents and other affected parties, including yourself and others living outside the redevelopment boundary. We're happy to do this through special meetings if that's felt necessary. Obviously, once the planning application is submitted, there is a formal process by which you can comment on development proposals to our planning department. So as you can see, this is just the start of the process.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary? Thank you very much indeed for your question. Okay. Now we've got amendment question time, and the first one is from Councillor Bray.
Good evening, everybody. The plans for the development of Gorse Ride increased the number of properties by 65 from 178 to 243. Now, while I'm pleased to see money being spent on new affordable housing in the borough, I am disappointed that 37, which is more than half of the additional properties, are for private sale, while the rest of the increase is either a shared ownership or intermediate or affordable rent. And there aren't any plans for additional properties at social rent, even though these are the type of properties that would be most help to the residents who are most in need. Why are so many of the extra properties being built for sale on the open market?
Thank you, Prue. I just want to begin by thanking the Liberal Group for the support that you guys have given, moving forward on this project, and the contributions that you've already made. This is a good example of another question that actually adds to the dialogue that we need to have around Gorse Ride. So thank you for that. As set out in the report, the tenure mix is indicative and is likely to change over the life of the project. We are proposing to replace the current council homes with the same number of high quality new social rented homes. However, through the master plan, we're also seeking to provide a range of housing types and tenures, and to create a balanced and mixed community. The current proposal is for, as you said, 136 social rented, 12 affordable rented homes and 19 shared ownership homes. This is a total of 167 affordable homes. The indicative mix includes 76 market properties. Of these, 39 will be prioritised for existing homeowners, and the remainder will help cross-subsidise the overall development. Without these open market sales, the council would need to inject further commuted sums into the project.
Do you have a supplementary?
I do, yes. As you just said, the final details of this are not yet fixed. And I think whilst we all want a good build quality, because the poor build quality is what has got us into this situation, I think we all want the money that we have to spend that can go on affordable housing to stretch as far as possible and provide as much as possible. And so what I think I would like to ask you is, will you undertake to look at some of the things which are nice to have, such as the number of garages on the site, and see if there's any options for providing more social rented or affordable rented housing on the site as we go forward? As you've said already tonight, this is the starting point and there are options to make changes.
I think the answer to that is yes.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Councillor Pisitt.
Thank you. Can any of these homes, in particular the bungalows, be designated as specialist so they could be protected from right to buy, ensuring that they are thereby retained in the social sector?
Okay. Again, Ian, thank you for coming on to all the meetings so late into the evening. It's really appreciated. The Council commissioned external legal advice on the tenant's rights, including the right to buy. This advice recommended that as far as possible, tenants' existing rights should be replicated through new tenancy agreements with Lawton Homes as a Council's registered provider company. As a result, the report is proposing under recommendation 5 that existing tenants will be offered a new home on the estate on a lifetime assurance tenancy and broadly similar terms to the current council tenancy. This would include preserved right to buy where tenants currently have the provision in a tenancy agreement. Generally, bungalows in the housing revenue account are exempt from the right to buy as they are deemed as specialist. It is likely that the new build bungalows on Gorse Ride will be occupied by tenants moving from existing bungalows on the estate who are unlikely to currently benefit from the right to buy. In this case, the preserved right to buy would not apply. The right to buy scheme is currently only being piloted as a voluntary scheme for registered providers. It is unlikely that the right to buy will be offered to new tenants moving into new homes on the redeveloped estate.
Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Richard. Good response. Bearing with that in mind, could I ask you also to consider perhaps building a few more bungalows in the mix for this project, along with some one-bed houses which are noticeably absent from the mix?
Again, I know you've been, you're not the greatest fan of garages and you would like to see the bungalows instead of garages, and yeah, you know, let's have that discussion. Let's have that discussion with the architects that hopefully will be this evening in a position to start tendering for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. The next question tonight is from Councillor Corrie.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to ask the question standing in my name, please.
Again, I'm going to begin with a thank you because, again, was it Andy and his Labour group have been very supportive in this and have engaged in really good, constructive conversation. So thanks for that. Whilst the planning application may be submitted covering the whole site, the intention is to bring development forward in phases. It is anticipated that residents on each phase will be rehoused either to an earlier phase on the estate or alternative housing development on, depending on their wishes. And then that part of this site will be cleared prior to transfer to Lawton Homes. We therefore expect each phase of the site to be transferred with vacant possession and for each transfer to be covered by the general consent. Should this change, our experience with other schemes is that the process for securing Secretary of State consent is relatively straightforward and takes around 2 to 3 months. The council will remain the landlord for all affected tenants until they are decanted and rehoused on or off the site.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. In 1990, the early 90s, the tenants of the estate were offered a choice of landlord, a different landlord, and they voted against it. In the mid-90s, the tenants were also offered a choice of a different landlord, and they voted against it. It seems in this case the tenants have been told they're going to get a new landlord and they're not being offered the choice of a vote on it. Will there be a vote, and if so, at what stage in the process will tenants be given the vote?
That's a good question. We've never ever was it. I've got to be honest, we've never considered tenants having a vote on this particular case. I think it would potentially, muddy the waters. But what I am saying to you is that the tenants are going to be involved at every single stage of this process.
Again, just like to thank everybody for putting in their questions and for everybody else who's come along tonight for contributing. Next, we've got the paper, which is item 124, and I'm going to hand over to Councillor Tenancy to lead on.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief on this because I think this paper's been combed through by so many people over such a long period of time. I think it's sitting out looking at the residents and fellow councillors. I think you guys are as an expert in this as I am now. But the key points is in March of last year, the executive agreed that with the intent to regenerate Gorse Ride. And as a consequence of that, there's been various technical studies, feasibilities, master planning and community engagement having taken place, and that's what's brought us to this evening. This report sets out the Council's plan to proceed with the redevelopment of Gorse Ride Estate through the commitment of £28 million funding from Section 106 agreements from affordable housing. The remaining balance will come from company borrowing and capital receipts from private and shared ownership sales. I think the key point to point out in this is that the report proposes that Loddon Homes would be the end landlord for the new homes, whilst Working Housing Limited will act as a development partner. And if we look at page 5, we've got the 6 recommendations there. I'm not going to read them through. And then we've got, pages 5 to 6, we've got 10 recommendations. So I'm asking the executive to support the recommendations tonight.
Thank you very much indeed. Just ask if any executive members have any questions. Julie.
Thank you, Richard. That was a very comprehensive report. I've got a couple of questions. The first one is, and I won't refer to it because it's in the pink pages, but is there a financial uplift to take into account inflation? That's the one question. And then the other question relates to agenda item 3 in the recommendation, where it says to put aside 1.3 million from the housing revenue account. I'm just wondering, given that these things can sometimes change over the course of quite a long period of time, whether that is, as in fact, enough money to actually put into that particular pot.
Okay, on your first point, yes, there's a 3.5% uplift for inflation. And again, that was actually Acorn provided the assurance there. And in relation to recommendation 3, I would welcome suggestions as to what level of monies we should set aside for that. Whether 1.3 is enough, I would welcome suggestions.
Yeah, I would probably suggest, given we've got some experience doing this on a much smaller scale, it probably needs to be probably closer to 2 million.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd also like to just speak as a ward member for this. I do support the multi-million pound reinvestment in this site. I think the regeneration is essential. Most of the properties, not all, but many of the properties are no longer fit for purpose, and the redevelopment is overdue. Sadly, our predecessors have avoided making what is inevitably a very difficult decision, and that responsibility now falls to us. I watched these houses being built as a very much younger person, and I want to see the entire estate regenerated to the benefit of the whole Gorse Ride community. I also note that although the properties will be replaced by more, that there will actually be roughly 25 more affordable homes on the site than there are currently, after some of them have been sold. So there's, I think, 167 affordable homes proposed, whereas I think actually there's only about 130 present. I really would be very supportive of this. There has been delays on it. Government involvement at the early stage has meant that we've had a hiatus on this when we all got ready to start this process going, and government policy meant that everything was put on hold for a couple of years, and that caused significant disruption to residents, which I regret. That was something done by powers beyond us. But we are now at the point that we can go ahead and get this done, and I'm fully supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other questions?
Shall I?
Please can you propose?
Yeah. What I was proposing, as opposed to actually sort of, do we need to put a specific number in, or can we just...
Specific recommendations on the number.
Change the 1.3 million to today up to 2 million.
Up to 2, yeah. Okay, so I'll propose that we do that. So you can always give it back. Don't worry.
Simon, so can you say that on the microphone?
Yeah. So I'll propose on agenda, on the recommendation number 3, where it says 1.3 million, that's actually increased to 2 million, with a view to actually giving you enough headroom should you need to adjust it. Up to.
And Councillor Reeves is seconding that. Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else with any points of clarity? No. Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. So with the changes to the recommendation on page 5, recommendation 3, with the proposal that Councillor Julie McGee-Sumner has proposed, may I ask all of the executive members to agree to recommendations 1 to 6 as set out on pages 5, those recommendations 1 to 10 as set out on pages 5 to 6. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And thank you again everybody for coming this evening.